Welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You with Tammy Nicole, the podcast dedicated to you loving and putting yourself first. Others have come first in your life for years, and you know it's time for that to change. You're about to be empowered to set healthy boundaries, confidently have hard conversations, unapologetically put yourself first, and live the peaceful life you deserve. Remember, self-love is essential, and loving yourself sets the stage for every other love in your life. So get ready to embrace self-love like never before with your host, Coach Tammy Nicole.
Hey, welcome to Transformation Tuesdays over at Loving Me Before I Love You. Welcome back to the show, guys. You know, this week we're going to be talking about families, broken families at that, but how to find common ground. I think a lot of times when families break up, be it due to divorce or just simply the separation of parents, we don't talk about how to actually have common ground after the fact. I think a lot of times we talk about co-parenting. We talk about the going to the graduations and going to the award show, like when it comes to kids, because that seems to be the only thing that keeps us connected to that family. But we don't really talk about how we got there. How do we get to the broken family? How do we create a common ground for all involved, not just the parents? Because the kids are connected to aunties and cousins and uncles and, you know, family friends. We don't talk about that piece either. We don't talk about how when stuff break up, it's like friendships have to be like, ooh, whose side do I choose? Do I go to this side over here or do I not? And so today we're going to talk about it. We're going to get a little deep and we're going to, what they say, be transparent and let it be bare. I do have a guest with me. He goes by D Jones. He is a fellow podcaster as well as a teacher. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Tammy, I appreciate you. I always tell people when I go on other people's platforms, I always say I'm super, honored, humbled to, be able to have a seat at your table to eat this meal. So thank you for allowing me to get some good food tonight.
Yes, because we definitely about to eat.
For sure.
So when you hear just a topic of the show, mending broken family relationships, finding common ground, what's the first thing that really kind of comes to your mind?
Man, being totally honest and transparent, the first thing that pops into my mind when I think about mending broken families is honestly just our Black culture. I think that is, unfortunately, I don't know if the word is struggle or if we just have a high percentage of broken families. I think a lot of times the unfortunate stereotypes with broken families and stuff like that are associated with Black culture. And so when I think of that, or when I hear those phrases, men in broken families, or hear that, that sentence, I definitely think about our culture first.
I hear that because I used to wonder, and we, being African American, we see it often, right, within our own culture. But I did used to wonder, was it cross-cultured? You know what I mean? Was it something that other people also experience? Doing this podcast and having multicultural guests on my podcast, I have found that it's equal. It may not be equal in quantity, but it's definitely an equal experience, right? So I feel like you kind of like are saturated by where you're located, and it's like that's what you see in your location. But going other places, if you stay saturated in them, you're going to see the same thing, because basically we're people, we're human, and we're all, creatures of habit. So there's no difference in relationship here than there is relationship over there. It's all the same. There's no difference in emotion. There's no difference in just how we connect as people. So So that makes it no different in relationships and how they are formed and how they dismantle.
I feel that. I received that too. You know what I'm saying? Definitely opened my horizons, you know what I'm saying? Like, more than just our culture is, all different walks of life, all different ethnicities and so forth. So, and as you say that, it makes a lot of sense for sure.
Yeah, and I think for us in the Black community, a lot of us see the broken families in the United States simply because we were kind of like geared towards that, right? They broke our families up from a financial perspective. When we were needing housing, you couldn't be on government assistance and have a whole family. Like, that wasn't even an option. So having to have the man taken from the home from that perspective is what I think created like the snowball effect. It was like we did it for that, and then it was like we just keep going. We kept it going. They planted the seed, and then we turned around and grew it. Versus being adverse to it and trying to do something different to maintain the family. I think if we actually had solitude families now, we would change a whole lot of things, from the kids and how they're acting in the world to just being able to do business and grow and have financial stability. It would be a whole lot different if the family was one unit.
Right. I agree with that. And it's funny that you said that, because you think about other countries, like any other country, everything they do over there is different. Like, they come over here, and the way we are when we go to their country, like, oh wow, everything is so like super polar opposite here. They're thinking the same thing about us. Oh, y'all eat in different rooms at dinner time. Y'all don't sit at the table, or children are away on tablets and cell phones and not doing stuff with their parents or stuff like that. Like, it's just they're boggled by our ways here in the U.S. So for sure, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they definitely are. But even when the family break up, when I say the family, I'm meaning when the parents or the unit that created that family dismantles, they still have a mentality that it's still family. So they're still doing things, even if they're in separate homes, they're still doing it as if they were in the same unit.
Yeah, makes sense. Over here, we in any sense, you mess around and split up or break up, see ya. And I can say that to my own self. I know there's been plenty of times where my mother might have, really upset me or hurt me or something of the sort, and we living in the same city, and I go almost a whole year and don't talk to her at all. You know what I'm saying? And like, I know some people who would lose their mind if they ain't talk to their mother numerous times a day. And I was just, I had no problem moving along as if, life was just fine without that. So, like I said, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's something that we should probably like adopt and apply to, more families here, just creating that togetherness through, storms and good times and trials and tribulations and what have you. Not really creating or allowing there to be a broken family that has to be mended at some point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think the other part of it goes also to the value, right? The value that we place on it. So you were telling your story about, being able to go without talking to your mom. A lot of times, like, I had that experience with my dad. It was like, I'm cool. I'm going to put you in the balcony of my life, and this is how we're going to operate, because you don't respect my boundaries. You don't respect, how I want to operate my life. And a lot of I thought I was going to like really regret having that space with him when he passed away, but he passed away not too long ago. And though I was sad, I didn't regret my decision. The only thing that I wish could have been different is that he still had more connection with my kids.
Mm.
But at the same time, I'm also in a space of I still was doing what was best for me and my kids. You know what I mean? So yes, I would have preferred him to have more connection with them because the dismantle didn't come because of them or with them. It came with me. However, they're just attached to me. You know what I mean? And so even navigating that piece of how do you set your own boundaries, your own groundwork for how you interact with certain members of your family that should or can't or doesn't affect the children, right? And that's a difficult space to navigate because you want to stand firm on what you truly think and believe regarding yourself, and at the same time not hinder a possibility.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point when you think about it. I got to think more deep into that one too when it comes to my own self. But I was thinking about when you said boundaries, and until you said it tonight, I never thought about, in my 39 years of being on this earth, I never thought about creating boundaries with like even my mother. Because, you know, growing up in most black, you know, homes, like, you know, mother, father, they run it. You don't listen. And so you grow up under a certain type of tutelage and you know, requirements and a certain type of, you know, aura in the home to where you respect your parents, which you always should. But then it kind of carries over into the adulthood to where you almost let them get away with things they shouldn't get away with. And so I think it's twofold, like on the children the child who's now an adult, they realize, like my grandmother says, I'm 3 times 7 and some, and they should be able to communicate, hey, mom, dad, whoever, like, I gotta have these boundaries. But on the flip side with the parent, they're thinking, I'm your parent. I created you or brought you into this world, and you gonna, you know, do what I say regardless. And so it's like a double-sided sword of boundaries have to be created and understood. And that's probably another reason, or I guess it is another reason why we have so many, you know, broken families, because people don't know how to set those boundaries you were speaking about.
Right. But the main reason we don't know how to set boundaries with our parents is because we don't set boundaries with ourselves. You know what I mean? Like you have to set boundaries with yourself and then set them with everybody else. If Jesus is not a respecter of person, why are we? You know what I mean? You don't just get to abuse me because you birthed me. That's not an option.
Yep. I remember one time, I know she's gonna listen to this later on, but I remember my mom, and I always try to figure out how I'm gonna say it, but like, I don't want to say I had to like train her, but like, she used to have this real bad habit. She would call me, and I'd be like, hello? And she would be like, where are you? And start going right into what she was saying, and I had to start telling her, hey mom, how you doing? How was your day? And then, you know what I'm saying, once you greet me properly with respect, then let's get into the reason for your call. And so, just by me kept on like correcting her in
Redirecting
that
her.
regard, redirecting her, now she'll, you know, even today, you know, hello, and she'll be like, hey, and she'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, hey son, how you doing? You know, she'll go back into that stuff and then go back to the neighborhood of, you know, asking me whatever she needs to ask me. So even that, in a sense, like again, I didn't even realize until today, but like even that is creating and setting a
That's a
boundary,
boundary.
you
Yep.
know, for myself, like, hey, you know, greet me properly, and then by just the example of, you know, I think sometimes you can or redirect people or lead by example. And just by doing it, now she's realizing like, oh, you know what? She's realizing her error rather, and now she's doing the right type of, you know, greeting me on the phone when she calls me. So
Yeah, and that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like you have to teach everybody how to treat you. It's, you know, when it becomes a parent-child relationship thing, a lot of times that people say that's sticky, and for me it's not. And it became unsticky or non-sticky for me when I started learning to love me. When I started doing the work for me is when it became not such a sticky thing, because everybody is a human, period.
right,
You know, when they say a dog is due respect, everybody is due respect. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what the relationship is. You should respect everybody. And when you learn to love yourself and you create boundaries that says this is the way I desire to be treated, because it's also how I treat myself. So if I treat myself at this standard, there's no way in the world I'm going to let you come in and treat me down here.
Right.
You have to meet me or go above me. You can never go below.
I like that. Meet me or go above me, never go below. Yeah, put that on a t-shirt, Tammy.
Let me write that down, right?
Yeah.
Yes. But that's real talk. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter who the relationship is with. If that's your standard for you, then you have to teach whoever it is to meet that standard. Like I tell people all the time, a boundary is not about putting a wall up and protecting and keeping people out. It is about setting a standard. And it's just simply said, this is what I deserve because this is who I am. If you can't be there, it's okay. Everybody has spots and positions. You know, you go to a church house and you got the front row, the back row, the balcony. You know what I mean? You got the middle. It's on you where you put yourself.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. There's this famous debate people always have. It's two words that say which one means more to you, loyalty or respect. And I've always said loyalty for me, but in having this conversation, I'm really sitting here thinking like, man, boundaries, respect, like, and I think they go hand in hand, but I do, I don't want to say hand in hand. I think they, are both equally important, but I guess it just, when you think about like boundaries, that's respect. Like you definitely want to have that respect. You got to teach people, and I've always said that you teach people how to treat you all the time, even in like, intimate relationships. Like you teach people how to treat you, and I think a lot of times, as a man, one thing I've had to learn, and I always tell people this: men and women are wired completely differently.
Absolutely.
And some things that women desire and require from their male counterparts, sometimes they don't think that us men also need those same things, but in reality, we do need those same things. And so I think sometimes because, the women may not necessarily they don't have any experience in being a man, they don't know how to, receive a man's need for those same things they want. You know what I'm saying? I heard somebody say, even in like family relationships or personal relationships, like when you think about love languages, whatever your love language is, you actually perform the opposite. So like if a person is, words of affirmation, that's what they need to receive. They're actually the type of person who shuts down. So when you think about, mending broken families or mending type of things, like you might need your mom and dad to continuously pour words into you of positivity. But then when you get bothered by something, you just shut down. And so you know what I'm saying? It kind of creates like this tug of war or this tennis game within your own mind.
Absolutely. When you talk about love languages, I think we don't talk about them as often within family relationships. We normally talk about them when it comes to romance, right? Mm-hmm. It's always about how she wants to receive love versus how he wants to receive love, etc. But love languages matter even in families, even between parent and child and sibling to sibling, cousin to cousin, auntie to cousin. Like it exists, period. Because the love language simply says, this is how I receive love from everybody, not just the one I'm with.
Everybody. Exactly.
It's everybody. And so, like you mentioned, the personal relationships and how women don't always think men need those same things that they want to receive themselves. I think that has a lot to do with societal programming. Because we are programmed to think men need nothing but physical intimacy. And I'm an air quote, peace, right? It's always, be my peace. That's what we hear from men. And so in reality, that happens because men do not always tap into their emotions and actually share what they really need. Now, that comes from society too, simply because we're not taught to actually protect. Women have to protect men too.
Right.
Even though it's deemed that the man is the provider and the protector, etc., a woman has to protect his heart just as much as she wants him to protect hers.
I agree
And
with
a
that.
lot of times, what happens is men don't become visible and share who they truly are to the women because they're afraid that she's going to take it and use it against him later down the road when stuff don't go her way, when things
Or he
start
doesn't feel
going
safe.
awry.
Or he doesn't feel safe, and
Right.
stuff like that. I actually heard this preacher say this a long time ago. It was actually T.D. Jakes. I just saw a reel, and on the reel he said women are protected with their bodies and men are protected with their hearts. And he was just saying how, like a man has to be able to, share his darkest, deepest secrets with you and and you not throw it in his face when you get around the family. Or if he's telling you stuff about the family because he, it's pillow talk and he feels like he can trust you, are you going to use it against him at the family barbecue or things
Yeah.
of that nature? And so, like, we are, more prone to give our body away, but when it comes to our hearts and personal, being vulnerable and, compassion and type of stuff like that, like, we got to feel safe. And I think that's kind of one of the examples I was thinking about earlier when I was saying how because men and women are wired so differently, they don't expect or don't assume that we too as men want to feel safe or protected as well.
Right. But you definitely do.
For sure. 110%.
110. That's why, like, when I am coaching women about learning themselves and loving themselves, everybody's human. So the very thing you need, they need too. It's not like they don't need it. They just have a different way of expressing the need.
Right.
Most men will shut down on you versus tell you, this is what I need.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that that's his signal, you know what I mean, then you're not going to grab him and hold him and allow him to release. You're going to just be like, oh, okay, and go on about your business and maybe ask for some money to go do X, Y, and Z, or, turn around and start fussing about something. Like, we have to learn to tap in. But I think it's both parties. Everybody has to be willing to be open and share.
I agree with that. When you think about mending broken families, I think a lot of times it unfortunately goes also back to like generations prior. I know some people, and it's not a. I'm not gonna say it's a bad thing because I don't want anybody who listens offend them. But I know, like, for example, the generations before, some grandmothers might teach their granddaughters, hey, men should move like this. Mind you, again, she doesn't have any experience in knowing what a man is or how he should move, but she's giving her opinion. A man should be this. A man shouldn't be having no emotions. A man should be outside in the yard. He shouldn't be sitting down. So these young girls grow up thinking this is what a man should be. And then so if they meet a man who they really, really care about, but he's a little bit opposite of what they have been programmed to, receive, he might have some more emotions or he might express more or whatever. It becomes like this barrier of, I don't know how to receive him. I don't know if this is the type of man I want to be with. I don't know if this is a good man or whatever they're questioning because of whatever. And it's the same thing in reverse with men. Some men grow up thinking like, oh, a woman should stay at home and take care of the home or whatever. And then if he meets a good woman that he really loves, but she wants to work, she's built a career for herself. Now they're clashing because, you know what I'm saying? So I think sometimes like the people before us create these unrealistic expectations and we are, generational curses bringing it forward, and then we start breaking the homes. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times people have to, I've always said this too. I personally believe one of the greatest gifts a parent can give their child is the example of a healthy relationship. Because as a parent, at some point, you want to see your children venture on into starting their own and extending their own families. But if they don't have a good example to
Yeah.
try to, mirror in any way, shape, form, fashion, like what are you expecting them to have?
Hey, hope you're feeling the love in today's episode. We'll pick back up where we left off in a moment. First, we're excited to share that Tammy has a collection of self-love t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and journals for you to express how much you love yourself to the world. From comfy hoodies to motivational mugs, there's something for everyone. While you're listening to today's show, feel free to browse the full collection at IamTammyNicole.com. Thank you, and without further ado, let's get back into today's show.
Yeah. Like the issue that really comes from that is that the parents that you're asking to give an example didn't have an example. Right. So there is a spot where people have to stop the curse and change the trajectory of the family tree and make a decision that it starts with me. You know what I mean? And that would be like, hey, I'm going to get healing. I'm going to not just keep passing the trauma down the pipeline, and I'm going to heal and get healthy and then provide that example for my kids. It does not always have to be their father or their mom, because you healed after the fact, right? So maybe you are now entering into something fresh and new, but it's still healthy. They can still see what healthy relationship looks like. And that to me is like coming to common ground. That to me is like mending the family. Once you heal and decide, I can still give them healthy relationship. I can still give them a healthy example. And once you start healing, you'll start mending the relationship with the ex, their, other parents, and start having what we call healthy friendship. And they can see, oh, they're not together, but they still can have a healthy relationship regarding us. Right. Because no matter what, whoever you have had children with, that individual is your family for life. I don't care if you like them today or not. You liked them enough to have that kid. And at this moment, the kid is here, and you are having a family with this individual. It doesn't matter if you married them or even was in a relationship. They're now your family for life. That child may grow up and have kids of their own. That partner has to have the opportunity of being present for that child's events. And we can't be fighting the whole time.
Mm-hmm. I like your mind, Tammy. I like where you're going. I mean, and I think that's something that I think a lot of people in general struggle with. And I don't know if I'm going to say it's a bad thing. I'm gonna just say that it's a behavior that more of us as humans need to learn. When you create a child with somebody and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, or the other parent might be an absentee parent or doesn't really provide or do anything, emotionally or mentally, even for the child. Like sometimes it's hard to do what you just said, embrace and accept and apply the family dynamic. And sometimes, when you think about moving on in life, if we don't work out, well, of course, you can't be naive to think the person ain't never going to meet somebody else. And you start wondering, like, if their new partners will be willing to accept, certain things. And so, it all goes back to what you were saying earlier, creating boundaries. Yeah. But also just, being mature enough to understand that, everybody has their role. People have to, whatever. One thing I always say about me, like I have a daughter, me and her mom are not there. I mean, not together, but never were either. And a lot of my homeboys would be like, man, like, how can you like deal with another guy around her all the time? I'm like, 'cause I'm just not naive like that. Like, if I'm not going to be with her mom, which will never happen, like, that means at some point, some other man will be with her mom. And that means at some point, some other gentleman will be around my daughter. To me, it's a blessing if she has another, male, male person in her life who is another, addition to the village, somebody who can give her guidance, somebody who can give her a perspective. If I'm not there, he's there. Like that's what the blessing is. But it
Yeah.
takes a certain
Double
type of
portion.
mature. Yeah, there's a certain type of mindset to embrace things like that. Sometimes you'll see it nowadays where a woman will walk down the aisle with both her dad and her stepdad, or she'll walk halfway down and then grab the hand of the other and walk the rest of the aisle down. Like stuff like that takes a certain type of maturity on everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the reality is you can't control all of it. You know what I mean? If you have a broken home, like you can't control it all.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have a say so. And typically it's their say so for their own life. You were just a part of it. You were just a piece of it. And now you have to accept the other pieces that this person brings into it. If you're having what I call open, honest dialogue, the goal is that the person is at least choosing someone that is healthy for the child.
Mm. Right.
But you guys should be able to have that level of conversation. You see something that's a little odd or out of place about that individual, you should be able to say, hey, I'm not telling you what to do, but I notice X, Y, and Z. And that person should be willing to receive and have the dialogue about it simply because you have a child together. And that child's well-being should be of everybody's best interest. You know what I mean? Like it should be everybody's focus is that we are making sure that nobody around this child is unhealthy for the child.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Definitely does.
But when you talk about coming to common ground, it's really about maturity. It really is about being transparent and being open and not using people as pawns and scapegoats. And, it's just be you, right? Know who you are, set your own boundaries, but be you and be authentic. I think a lot of times we're so inauthentic. We're very facade-ish and always wanting people to think that everything is amazing on our end of the table. Because if it looks like something is wrong, there's a problem. You know what I mean? Like versus when you having a bad day, being able to say it. Oh no, it's not a good day over here today. Being able to, just be you and be true.
Right. Yeah. That's a big thing too. I think one thing I had to learn over the last couple of years, and I kind of taught my mom this, and I've been telling people around me this, but like, I think a lot of times we fall short by expecting ourselves in other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to stop doing that. You can't expect yourself in other people. You got to, be, willing to receive some other type of opinion or some other type of perspective, but also just like how you would do it. Is that the only way it can be done? You know what I'm saying? There's more than one way to skin a cat. Can it be done a different way? Is there a way, something you can think about? Their personality, are you able to accept it? All those type of things. And so, that's something I used to struggle with on myself personally, just being totally honest, like expecting myself and other people. Like it would be like, I would tell myself like, this is common sense to me, but maybe that other person doesn't understand it or doesn't see it that way, or doesn't view it that way. So they're not seeing it the way that I see it. Can I receive their way?
Yeah, but common sense is not common.
Yeah, that's what people always say. It's not common.
Yeah, common sense is not common. And I 100% agree with not expecting yourself in other people. And there's a difference between saying, hey, I treat myself here and you're not going to treat me below here.
Only same ride. Come on, Tammy. Yeah, t-shirt.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's a difference in that and an expectation. So, and here's the difference. Me expecting me out of you is simply saying, hey, I would do it this way, so you should do it this way.
Mm.
Me setting a bar or a standard of I treat myself at this level says you're going to treat me at this level. It didn't say tell you how to treat me as far as like do steps 1 through 3, but it tells you what level you're going to treat me on. You know what I mean? If we go into a building and I reside on, floor 15, that means you need to come up to floor 15 and do whatever you see on floor 15, but don't do nothing on floor 14. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm not telling you what to pick from, but I'm just giving you what your options are. So that's not me telling you, treat me from my expectations of how I would do it verbatim. It gives you a little bit more freedom, but it does say, hey, you're still not going to treat me below the bar.
That's a good way to say it right there. You give them a little freedom and give them a little bit of, customization.
Right.
But we're not going, settle for less than what we deserve. I heard this thing one time. It said, if you know your personality is, and it's not speaking about material things. It's speaking about personality. But the thing said, if your personality is Gucci and Prada, don't shop at Walmart.
That
You know what I'm
part.
saying? And that's basically saying, like, what you just said. Like, if I'm on
That
level
part.
15, I ain't going down to 14. You're going to have to go
Right.
at 15 or higher. So.
Correct. And that's like even when you get into the relationship, right? So a lot of times the reason we have broken relationships is because we get into the wrong one for the wrong reason. It's like you do a short-term feeling for a long-term result. And that's how we create these families. And we're not doing them intentionally all of the time.
Right.
So most of the broken families are, the quick little, this is what we think is working right now. But most of us don't love ourselves in the moment. We don't know our worth in the moment. And then when we discover who the heck we are, then it's like, oh, you got to go.
Right.
And it's that. It's what I call like premature interactions. And we have to stop having premature interactions expecting longevity. But you had made the comment of which one is most important, respect or loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And to me, the answer is always going to be respect, because there's no way you can be loyal to me and not respect me.
And see, I disagree. I always have that same conversation every time. I always use it like this, right? So the example I always give is actually with family. I always say, okay, you might have family members who disrespect you. They talk about you behind your back. They just really don't respect you. But then when it comes down to we got to ride out for this family member or we got to go take care of business or whatever, they show up. So to me, that's loyalty, but they just don't respect you. And I think that sometimes for some, it's kind of like, it's almost like, there's a famous phrase where oh, go ahead.
So I'm going to ask you this. Is that person riding out because it's you, or are they riding out for the person that asked them to come?
I think they riding out simply because you are family. You're somebody that they do love. They just don't respect you. It's kind of like I don't know. Like I guess like I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like a lot of people won't respect you, but they're gonna be loyal. And it's the same thing in reverse. A lot of people gonna be loyal. I mean, a lot of people gonna respect you, but they're not gonna be loyal to you. Like, you know what I'm saying? You might be like, hey, that person is really, really good. Like, I respect what they do, but I ain't never gonna help them out with nothing. There's no loyalty to that person. You know what I'm saying? This person is an amazing father. You know what I'm saying? Like, an amazing father. You know what I'm saying? They're great to our kids. You know what I'm saying? They pay all the bills, but I'm gonna go out here and cheat because I don't have no loyalty to them. Like, I think both of these things
Yeah,
sometimes
but if you
happen.
cheating on somebody, you don't respect them either.
Yeah. I guess I should say more so respecting certain aspects.
You can respect the character of who they are, but you don't respect them for real, if you cheating on them. So like, even when it come to family that's quote unquote riding out for you and they don't respect you, a lot of times to me that's a self thing and not a you thing. And what I mean by that is they are more concerned that somebody else will point the finger and say you wasn't there for that person and that's your family than they are showing up. You know what I'm saying? Or not showing up.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But even in that sense, like, again, right, still grown, still can make their own choice and just deal with the aftermath of who was saying you didn't do it. I still showed up. So I'm still showing some type of loyalty. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still being loyal for whatever reason, even though I don't respect you at all. You get on my last nerve, I don't want nothing to do with you. But I could have said no when they asked me to show up. You know what I'm saying? When mama kid, hey, your cousin need this and this, I'm like, nah, I'm cool. But I still made the choice as a grown person to show up. So I'm showing some type of loyalty.
I hear you. I always feel like loyalty has motive, where respect is more like, I don't want to say factual, but more from that perspective, right? Like there's a motive behind me being loyal to you versus me respecting you. I don't have no motive to respect you. I respect you for, A, B, C, or D, like for whatever it is. But when I'm loyal to a person, there's motive behind it, one way or the other. Not saying good, bad, or indifferent, but there's some level of motivation behind why I'm being loyal to you.
That's a whole other conversation. I'm sitting here wondering, like, because if a person if a person processes that and says, oh, there's a motivating reason why they're being loyal to you, that can make your mind go 1,000 different web pieces ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, is this person, kind of like you said with the respect thing, or the loyal thing with the family thing, like, okay, like, is this person really loyal to me because they really want to be loyal to me, they really love me if they say they do, or they just feel like it's the right thing to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I guess it can go hand in hand with the respect as well. So, I mean, that's a great conversation. You should write that in your book, Tim. And you gotta put it on chapter 15. Loyalty versus respect.
Chapter 15. That's right. But yeah, so like, I think all of it, ironically enough, when you talk about mending families, all of it really results down to relationship, right? And mainly the relationship that you got with yourself, because once you understand who you are, it allows you to relate and mend with other people a lot differently.
Right.
When you don't know who you are, it's very hard to come to common ground with anybody, because your focus is always on like pretty much what you want versus like looking at the whole picture and how it affects everybody and what part do you play? What part do they play? And everybody playing their own role.
I'm glad you said that. I've always said this too, like, and I could be wrong, but it's just my opinion. Like, one phrase you hear people say, especially when they go through like a transition of like a split or whatever, they say, I gotta find myself. And the thing I always struggle with that is, especially if you have children, if you don't know who you are, then the children are screwed, because you're supposed
But
to be
most of us
caring.
don't know who we are. Most
Yeah,
of us.
I think that's the problem. Like, we should all know who we are. You know what I'm saying? We should all know who we are. We should all, you know what I'm saying, aspire to, be confident in who we are, embrace who we are. And the reason why I say it is because I've always said this too. I think most people, I think you just kind of agreed, most people, because they don't know who they are, they're not comfortable being themselves.
Correct.
And what happens is when you get around somebody who is comfortable being themselves, it makes you uncomfortable. So you automatically think they're weird, but they're just being themselves. They are confident in just being who they are. They're confident in, being goofy and making up random songs or whatever. And you looking at them like, this dude lame or this dude weird or she weird. They're just being themselves. But because you struggle with the inner battle of finding who you are and you don't have the confidence to be yourself, you think they weird.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. It's an issue. If you don't know who you are, the children are going to be lost because you're not teaching them how to find themselves either, because you didn't know how to find yours. But a lot of times that's what we have to do. Like, we have to learn who we are, and we have to learn what we like and what we don't like. Most of us have been people pleasers our entire lives because in our culture, you're taught, like you mentioned earlier in the conversation, to do what mommy and daddy says. And you're taught to please them. You're taught to do what they want. You're taught to make them proud. You're taught to do everything about them and nothing about yourself, nothing for yourself. And so therefore, you grow up doing what they wanted you to do. And then when you get old enough to be an adult and do what you want to do, they have already programmed everything that they wanted you to do in your deep soul you don't know how to veer from it.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
But you got to find you, right? So like for me, I'm trying to be a part of that change. So like with my own children, what they want to do matter. It's not just what I want them to do.
Right.
They
Yeah, I
have to
like
have
that.
a voice.
They gotta have a voice. They gotta, you know what I'm saying, gotta have a voice. And I think I think that's something that I've even struggled with too. Like, they have to have a voice, but we also have to have balance. Just because you have a voice doesn't give you the right to just disrespect me. It doesn't give you the right to just take it past a certain line. We gotta have a balance.
Absolutely. You teach authority, you teach regulation, you teach how to, control yourself. But at the same time, you also teach that what you want matters. Like, I can't say, I want you to be, I don't know, I want you to be a doctor, and that's what you're going to be.
Right.
And I'm going to put you in everything geared towards you being a doctor because that's what I want you to be. And in the
They want to do here.
depths of your soul, you want to go dance and
Right.
be on, some Alvin Ailey dance stage, living your best life. Like, we have to stop living our life that we wanted for us through our kids, because that's typically what's happening. It's like, my mama didn't let me do blah, 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 so I'm going to do this for you. You're going to have this exposure. You're going to have this experience. And then you're pushing it and forcing them into something they don't really want either.
Right. Yep. That's a whole another episode right there in itself, Tammy, for sure. Kids.
Yeah. And we have to decide to do the right thing. So when you're talking about actually mending the broken family and coming to the common ground, it's like, sit at the table and write down what the issues are, lay them all out. Let's talk about why they're an issue. Because most of us got issues with people just for the sake of who they are.
Right.
I don't like you because you so-and-so sister. You know what I mean? Like, and that person did X, Y, and Z to me. Like, we have to stop doing things based upon other people's experiences and have our own experience with the individuals that we're connected to. But
Right.
go to the groundwork, write down what the issues are, have real conversation, real dialogue, be open to forgiveness, be open to apologizing, and then set a plan for how you want to moving forward. You can't mend something that you don't acknowledge.
For sure. Totally agree. Couldn't have said it better myself, Tammy. You a beast of that, for sure.
Yeah. So tell the people, like, if you were to give advice to anyone listening in reference to them, like, man, I want to mend the relationships that I have. I just don't know how to move. Like, I don't know how to do it. What would you tell them to do?
I would tell them just, I would tell them, I think a lot of people don't, do this enough. Write down your thoughts. Whether it's just journaling or if it's bullet point format, write them down. You have to sometimes practice what you're going to say because not everybody is an improv thinker. Write those things down. And I would just, when you have those conversations, I would just, create boundaries. And remember 3 words I always teach my students. Respect is non-negotiable. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to respect you. You damn sure going to respect me. You know what I'm saying? That's it. No matter who it is, mom, dad, brother, sister, cousin, child, whoever, you're going to have to respect me. And that's just what it is.
Absolutely agree. Now, I know you have your own podcast. Tell them where they can, like, find you and listen to your own.
Yeah. So my podcast is called If This Mic Could Talk. Mic, like a microphone, M-I-C. If This Mic Could Talk. Great name, if I might say so myself. You can find me on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, wherever you can listen to podcasts. And I also record live on YouTube as well. If you just type in If This Mic Could Talk, you'll see over 400 episodes. And so I love doing it. It's a true passion of mine, and it's always great conversation. My slogan is sophisticated randomness. So we're going to have conversations about everything under the sun, relationships, hot topics, current events, scenarios, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome.
Play some games. But it's always just good fun, good conversation, different walks of life, different people, and so forth.
I love it. I love it. So you guys definitely check out his podcast on all streaming platforms as well as on YouTube. I first want to say thanks for joining me. This has been a great conversation. Mending broken families is a thing that we should definitely be doing. But I think it always starts with us. So remember, love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus. See y'all next Tuesday.
That's a wrap on another episode of Loving Me Before I Love You. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to show your support by subscribing and leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Stay connected with Tammy. Make sure you're following her on Instagram and TikTok at Coach Tammy Nicole. If you like to work with Tammy or have any questions you'd like her to answer, please head over to www.IamTammyNicole.com. Until next time, always remember to love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.